Good evening and welcome to Nice Drop of Port, Auckland FC's very own football podcast. If you like the show, tell your friends, give us a like, and please do subscribe. Tonight we're going to be talking about tribalism in football, devotion, sticking with a team through thick and thin. And our theme is going to be connection, building connection to football. Auckland, as we know, hasn't had a professional football team for 17 years. And we're going to be talking about what those connections mean to football teams and how they get built, how they get destroyed, and how you just stay in there and stick in through thick and thin. Tonight, we've got some expert opinion. A special guest is coming all the way at us live from Manchester, England, one of the great cities of football. We'll be discussing the All Whites World Cup hopes, Chris Wood, and asking again, how good is this guy? No doubt we'll be debating whether we'll ever see him in a black and blue Auckland FC shirt. And hoping a lot of people saw that overhead kick last weekend from our next opponents, the Macarthur Bulls. We'll be discussing whether any of us have ever scored an overhead kick goal and how long ago that was. We'll have all the build-up to Auckland FC's game at the weekend, of course. So 5 of us tonight. Welcome back to Blair, Matt, and Robbie, as usual. And you'll see someone new in here. We have... Miles Burgess from Manchester is joining us tonight. And Miles, is it City or United?
A very good question. I'm not a huge fan of either, unfortunately, Dale, as you well know. Growing up just south Manchester, majority of my friends are United fans, having had several years of success, let's say, through a few years ago, whenever I'm a Stockport County fan, as you well know. So whenever I sort of come back into the pub on a Saturday evening and County have had a possibly a bit of a miserable afternoon, United typically have won, and there's been a Fergie goal at the end, and they're all jubilant, and I'm not quite so excited. But never mind. Those years have gone, and
how many years have you stuck with Stockport County, Miles?
First game I went to was 92. Some time. I got a season ticket first time in 96, had a season ticket for 20 odd years. Don't go quite as much as I used to. I used to go home and away back in the day, but it's been a bit of a sort of turbulent time through various leagues, and dare I say it, they're on the way back up now.
Nice.
So good time.
League One up, going up to the Championship.
Yeah. League One, nice. So just behind Birmingham City, but breathing down the necks.
Right. Well, the reason I've asked you to come on, Miles, at such short notice last few days, I don't think we've spoken in years, actually.
Yeah, we haven't.
But you're on like
a podcast to bring people together.
The whole idea of tonight's podcast is to talk about connection, and I'll tell you why in a little bit. But basically, we've got this new football team here in Auckland. There's a lot of football people, and you've been to Auckland. We actually met in New Zealand, which we can go into a little bit later if we have some time. But essentially, it's the football teams come out of sort of the blue. We're 3 games in. We've won the first 3 games. We're top of the league of this A League, the old Australian league. We're top of the league.
Yeah.
And I kind of been thinking, what is it that I think we've all talked about what happens if there's a few defeats or whatnot. But what happens when that happens? How do fans stay connected to teams? So that's why you're here, mate, tonight. All right.
Right.
So we'll get into you a little bit in a bit. But what I want to get into first is some news that we are going to let you know about, which is that the cast of Nice Drop of Port here have actually been headhunted to appear in a 10-part documentary series on Auckland FC. And these guys, it's a kind of like Welcome to Wrexham type doco. Contacted by the producer last week and said, look, we're embedded with the team. We're embedded with the manager. We're their pitch side. We're doing, all these little stories. But what I need is the fans. And he's talked to the guys who produced the Welcome to Wrexham. He said, you need these special little people who are going to pop up throughout the doco series. And so we got the old shoulder tap. And we were down there. We were down there last night doing a bit of filming. Robbie didn't come because he lives in Sydney, but Blair, Matt, and I were down there in the Auckland City Viaduct last night.
Oh,
how did you boys? Yeah, how did you boys go? Blair, did you enjoy it?
The drive in was
horrific. But yeah, it was a great evening. You know, brilliant scheduling right on top of a Hosier concert. So
yeah, made it difficult.
But yeah, other than that, it was great time. You know, free beers, free food.
Well, yeah. See, this is where I'm still dubious if this is actually a real thing or if it's just an excuse for you to sink piss together. That's
Yeah.
You're invited.
Yeah.
Well, here we go.
Well,
Here's
they are.
the pictures. There's us.
Okay, so there's a
Yeah.
camera there. It's actually it's a
Definitely a
real
camera.
thing.
There we go. Yeah, it's not just us three. This one's
It is
a weird
legit.
shot, but yeah.
There you
There
go.
we go. So yeah. So we were asked to take part, and he actually he sort of asked me some quite probing questions, you know, around because he's a Pommy and he's only been here 4 years, and he sort of said like, well, you know, what is the city's connection to football? And it has been a sort of little bit sketchy down the years. So we're kind of trying to sort of delve into whether this can carry on, you know, whether this can gain some traction. We got 24,000 for the first game, I think like 14,000 for the second game. The derby down in Wellington attracted a massive crowd. Yeah, so it's kind of like
Not a sellout though.
not a sellout, but it's interesting because we have all the kids running around and playing football here, and there's a huge interest in the schools and at grassroots. But then what seems to happen is they get siphoned off into rugby, you know, and league,
Yeah.
and it's kind of it's like the connection is lost. So it's like we've been starved of this connection to football, so we're sort of trying to get back into it. The question I have start right off the bat is, over a long period of time, what is it that forms that bond with a football club? Miles, do you want to take it away? Stockport County, what is it?
For me, it was the whole experience and the close proximity to where I was born. So I was born just up the tracks from Stockport. It was something new and exciting to begin with. And the first game I went to was a bit of a belter actually. It was an FA Cup game, Stockport County against QPR. QPR back in the day were, well, it was before Premier League, but QPR were top division. Les Ferdinand and Trevor Sinclair and, you know, some decent players playing for them, and County managed to beat them 2-1 in a huge sort of FA Cup shock. And there was a fantastic overhead kick in that one actually to win it. So Andy Priest and Kevin Francis, it was great. And from that moment, you know, I was there with my mates in an open terrace behind the goal. I was only, I mean, I'm short now, but I was even shorter then, you know, pushing myself up on the bar to try and get a view of it as the ball was coming in from the corner. You know, yeah, there's a bit of a, you know, a light crush element, but clearly there weren't tens of thousands of it. There was only a few hundred behind the goal. But that buzz and that feeling and that feeling of togetherness and the fact that I could get there on the paper round money was just brilliant. And I thought to myself, I absolutely love this. I want to do this as much as possible, and that's what I did for a number of years following. And you know, travelled all over the place. I say all over the place. We got as far as the Isle of Man International Trophy, which was really crazy. Obviously, you and I back in the day, Dale, have been down to the likes of Plymouth to watch County. So
that's right, we did.
Wasn't a great result, losing 5-0. It was a long way to go. But yeah, it's great, and you feel really part of something, and you really sort of connect, and it's brilliant. It's brilliant. And
but the crowds are quite small at that level, eh? Still,
they are, yeah. So County's level. I mean, clearly there's different, and I don't want to offend any Birmingham City fans on the call. That's maybe a bit of a larger setup. Mate of mine's dad actually played for Birmingham City for a number of years, and that's, funnily enough, that's how I got first involved with County, with a guy called Jeff Whelans, who was the goalkeeper at Birmingham City for a number of years in the 80s. So yeah, 10,000 at our level, but then, you know, there are the likes of Birmingham, which are bigger crowds, but it's pretty small. It's not to the state of Old Trafford that I just passed on my way into the office this morning, which is slightly larger, clearly.
Mm.
So you get about 10,000 in,
Yes.
if you're lucky.
Yeah.
Where
No,
does
we're
that
doing
rank?
all right at the minute. We're doing all
Yeah.
right. So
Where does
you
that
know,
where does
we
that rank,
beat
Robbie, with the crowds here at the A-League? That's sort of mid crowd.
10,000. Yeah, 10,000 for an A-League crowd would be actually pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think back on averages. That's because for a few seasons leading up to maybe the previous 2 or 3, they were averaging across the board under 10,000. So their numbers are starting to come back up. I think that kind of that passion for the competition is coming back and is strong or getting stronger. That's really interesting to hear that story, because obviously being in this part of the world is slightly different in that you're not necessarily tied to, I guess, the club team that's in your location. It's more, particularly with the A-League and how it was born back in 2005. It was more city centric, because the club based system, there were problems with like the ethnic kind of background. There was a lot of fighting at stadiums and games, so they kind of wanted to move away from that and take that out of the game a little bit. So how do you create that tied to a team that's, I guess, forced or made? It's slightly different, but it's still really interesting, because that's not our culture. That's not how we, as speaking as a Kiwi, even just living in Australia, it's completely different. But how we still get that connection is it's a hard question to try and answer for someone down this end. You know what I mean? But yeah, it's just really interesting to hear someone who loves football from the UK, especially, because that's what we grew up watching.
Absolutely, and it's such tiny pockets as well in Manchester. I mean, you mentioned United, City, clearly headline, but then as you know, Dale, beyond that, there's Bolton, Burnley, Blackburn, Wigan, Stockport, Altrincham, Macclesfield. There's Bury. There's within.
These are all league
such
teams,
small
pretty much.
distance.
You're naming, they're all.
Yeah,
league
they
teams,
are. Yeah,
pretty much.
Yeah, I think they are.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like 10 league teams in Manchester, Greater Manchester.
Yes. Yeah.
So, and they would all compete for fans. So they'd all, like, you'd be tied geographically. What is the tribalism like? Give us a taste of it in Manchester.
What would I say the tribalism's like? I mean, don't get me wrong. Clearly, I'm a Stockport fan and I'm biased, and I say we're the best in this, that, and the other. But clearly the not quite hatred, but the city is blue and red, isn't it? You've got you've got United connections, you've got City connections, and City, in fairness to them, are probably right in what they say, where they say true Mancunians are City fans. And therefore, Manchester United is the amount of sort of southern football fans that follow Manchester United has always been a bit of an ongoing joke over the years, should I say? So I don't know. It can be a little bit. An area of the city. So the area of the city that Manchester City are in is a little bit sort of slightly more run down than the area of the city United are in. So there is an element, not quite to the degree of I don't know, having watched a bit of football over in Argentina, where you've got a real, you've got La Boca and you've got River Plate and you've got rich and poor. But there's a little bit of an element of that in Manchester. So there's a little bit of undercurrents of, Manchester City are a little bit sort of lower class. So does class come into it a little bit, possibly? At the real regional level, at Stockport's level, for example, it's just, well, we're all from Stockport and we're proud of that, and we're not from Manchester, and don't get us confused with that. Yes, we're very close, granted, but we are in our own right, so don't connect us to those swines.
It's a serious business, isn't it? It's a serious business, and we're obviously Robbie and Blair are from this part of the world originally, and they're sort of bigger A-League aficionados than Matt and I, and it's kind of like we've had this derby, right? We've talked a lot about this. We've had Auckland, Wellington. I mean, Miles, you've been over here. You know a little bit of what New Zealand's about, and it's kind of like we had a situation where a lot of Kiwi football fans were following Wellington for many years because they'd actually come up and play all around the country, and have sort of formed a little bit of a connection. And now it's like everyone off with the shirt, and it's Auckland, you know. So it's kind of like we're in this sphere of trying to build this,
Right.
but we have a very different culture. Anyone any thoughts on how we're sort of gonna? Will we ever be like England around the football, or is it going to be? It's the A-League, right? It's different.
Yeah,
It's
Kiwi
just
culture in
different.
general is just completely. It's far more laid back. Like people aren't as fussed over a loss. I feel as like English fans could be. Like, and I think that there's a few factors that, including like the system the leagues run under and that kind of thing. And yeah.
Yeah. I just think it's just that time as well. You know, I mean, it goes back to what Miles was saying there about me being a Stockport fan, me being a Birmingham City fan. I mean, essentially it was someone came up to me. It was almost being a Birmingham City fan was as much as someone saying what your name is. Pretty much for me. I never really had a choice what my first name was. I've never really had a choice on who the football team I was going to support. That was essentially it. My dad supported it. He's one of 10. They all support Birmingham City. All their kids support Birmingham City. There's no way that I could just go off piste and just kind of go off the beaten track and say, oh, I fancy being a Manchester United fan or something like that. I just wouldn't be able to. I just wouldn't have been able to show my face at any family function. They wouldn't have. They wouldn't have.
They
wouldn't have accepted
no choice.
It.
Yeah.
Had you said Billy,
I had no choice.
Had you said Billy, you wouldn't got anywhere near the parties.
I think I would have been disowned. I think I'd have been disowned. I'd have been told that you're no longer allowed anywhere near the family. There would have been an order to say that you can go anywhere near. But I think here in Auckland, I don't know. I think Blair's right. I think it's it's going to be it's hard to kind of that time your dad supported them, and that you just kind of died in the wool. That football team from your area. That's why I always, when I spoke to you, Dan, and you mentioned about Miles, and I think we did meet. I think when you had your after wedding party,
you guys met at my wedding, I think.
Yes.
Or at the wedding, yeah. And I just thought it's quite good when you meet somebody that's, when you meet somebody, they say, "Oh, I support Man U or I support Chelsea." It's like, oh yeah, okay, good on you. But when you meet somebody and they go, "I support Stockport County," or "I support," somebody of that nature, it's like, yeah, I like that. I can probably relate to you a lot more than I can a bigger team. So
yeah. I think what's interesting, you said you had no choice. You get it from birth. It comes down to families. Now, Blair said something to me interesting last night, which was on the way in for one of the games. You swung into Macca's, of course, which you're in trouble with me for that. But and you tell us what you saw with the families and the dads and the kids.
Well, there was a group of 3 dads and all their sons there, and like they went in for this was after the very first game. And I had a bit of a yarn with them afterwards, and like they were all, talking about getting season tickets and all that kind of thing, and yeah.
And this is where it starts. I mean, that's the bond. Sex is you go with your dad or go with your mum or whatever, and it's got to grow from somewhere. Like, are we going to see more Auckland shirts around Auckland than? I mean, I'm sorry.
I'm seeing Auckland shirts.
I saw a Villa shirt. I saw a Villa shirt down the road today. Hopefully. But are we going to see more of those Auckland shirts all over the place, do you reckon?
Yeah. I mean, I'm already seeing them in Hamilton, so.
But I think that's the thing with the competition, though. It's like it's going to take time for it to build, and the A-League's been around for 20 years now. And there are a number of stories of like having that familial connection of kids going to the games back in season 1, season 2, even being ball kids for the clubs that are now coming through and actually playing for the clubs. So having that connection it's going to take time. That's all it is. And look, Auckland's are three games into their life. It's going to take a few seasons for that connection to build with the fan base. It's just what the club does to basically to stay in the league, not do a Knights or a Kings and only exist for 3 or 4 years. Teams like the Mariners, Sydney FC, who were there back in day 1 and are still here in day year 20, that connection is already there, and you're seeing it is there are elements of that. You know, you're born a Victory fan, you can't support Melbourne City, or you're born a Sydney FC fan, you can't support the Wanderers. There is that element there, but you know, it's still a young competition. So I don't know if New Zealand's quite there, because the Phoenix have only been around, 15, 16 years now. So there may be that generation coming in, but it's going to take time. It's going to take time. But I'm hopeful that it will change for the better.
Yeah, I think Auckland's ripe for it. I mean, we're like 1.67 million people. You know, a lot of football people here. A lot of football people.
At the second game, we had I think it was about a dozen Colombians turn up and support of Nathan Moreno, and they had a few flags from what was the name? Parthenon, I think, the club that he came from. They had a couple of flags from there, and they came in and got involved, and then you got the ramen shop in Newmarket's doing the Black Knight ramen, and
you'll get that. You get that in the English football, though, don't you? We've actually got a guy playing the centre midfield for us who's from South Korea, and actually they've noticed quite a few South Korean people have started turning up and watching the Blues. They've started to watch Birmingham City just out of nowhere. But also, I think the thing they're trying to do as well is just what they call the impressions. You know, they're trying to, like all football teams, they're trying to get into the different markets. You know, they're trying to sell merchandise and shirts and all that kind of jazz to different markets as well. But I think that's a good idea. I like you just said. I think we talked about it last night. It's bringing people together that wouldn't probably normally come together to talk about stuff. Auckland FC is the thing that they can relate to.
It's a great connector. Football's a great connector.
It always has been. Yeah.
It's the world game. You know, I also sat on a plane. I went over to watch Spurs in Melbourne earlier this year, and I was sat on a plane. You know, a Korean guy sitting next to me. You know, he's also off to the game, of course. You know, doesn't speak great English, but we've basically managed to arrange that, like, if we see each other at the game, we'll go out and tie one on. You know, like it was that kind of like vibe. You know, he goes, don't tell my wife though. You know, it's like, I won't say a thing. It's absolutely fine. All right. The other thing I wanted to talk a little bit about was crowds, you know, like at football matches, and kind of you know, we've talked a little bit about this. The A-League is quite different because we don't have a lot of away support here, Miles, because of the distance.
Right.
You know, there's a few rounds of the year when you know, people, and this weekend we've actually got the Unite round where all the teams are playing in Sydney. So there's concerted efforts to get, you know, more to the game. But inside a stadium, and I want to talk about this because I've gone to the two home games, and so Blair here is part of you know, the active support. So because New Zealanders are so used to just sitting on their bums, not really being active at a game. You know, it's kind of, and it's a bit of a thing. And so there's this kind of one section who stand, and it's beautiful to watch, and to be in there, you feel like you're at a football match. And I kind of sort of look around, I'm like, why is there only one little bit acting like they're at a football match? It's kind of a different, everyone's either standing up or they're sitting down. And I'm going to tell my little story of going to Spurs, and it's not like that. It's kind of like, you know, well, I mean, after watching Spurs for a number of years, you need to sit down after a while. You don't want to be standing up for the whole game, you know. But like, it's a sit, and then it's kind of like, as Spurs get on the attack, if the whole ground used to stand up, and you'd hear the rumble of the chairs, the rumble of the chairs as Spurs got on the attack, and everyone's standing, and it's kind of, it breathes as one. Well, I mean, I talked to Blair and Robbie about this, and Matt. Like, do we think like we can expand this kind of tiny bit of active support out and around, or is it? Or am I too much of a dreamer?
I think long term you could quite possibly get that entire South Stand standing, but I think Kiwi culture will sort of, you know, that'll be the area you stand kind of thing, you know, and. Because there's people that will go to the games and want to sit and whatnot, and you know, I think that's a large portion of fans at the moment. And whether the standing catches on we'll see.
I think it's over time, like you say. Because I remember you used to go to Spurs and you would be sitting, but then one of the songs would rack up, and that's enough to get you going, right?
Yeah.
What,
I mean, I guess that's a hard one because that old chestnut of health and safety, particularly down these parts, are probably a little bit harsher.
yeah.
So
As
only
much as I'd love to see a full stadium standing and chanting and singing for 90
I think
minutes.
there's only actually one stadium with like proper standing section. That's Waikato Stadium.
Is that the sort of safe standing like they have in over here?
Yeah,
or
with
in
the bars and all that, and
Yeah.
Yeah, the old Argentinians took that over during the old Women's World Cup against Sweden. That was a good watch.
Yeah, it was great.
What's a county crowd like, Miles? Is it? I mean, people don't stand for the whole game. Like I said, it's kind of like it seems to breathe and come and go.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think a lot of lower league football, and in fact, you get this throughout the leagues. Really, the away following is the real hardcore element.
Yeah,
and you're talking of, you'd have to stand for 90 minutes away because you wouldn't see. So, and particularly the more obscure and the more further away you get from home, clearly the crowds, probably get a little bit smaller and smaller in terms of the away following. And it's a real sort of, your tifosi who you're left with. So you're standing up and you're part of it and you're singing for 90 minutes and you're, bouncing around and you got to go with it. Whereas I don't know that the home support always tends to be a bit diluted. However, there are always little pockets within grounds where you know if you want a sing song for 90 minutes and you want to stand up, you go and buy your ticket wherever you go and buy your ticket.
Yeah, I guess we do have the choice with Auckland. Yeah, we can go and stand and sing along. My middle daughter's desperate to get in there.
Yeah, it's fantastic having a sing song. Are you allowed to? What's the drinking rules over there in football? Are they?
It's expensive. Expensive. That's the rules.
Yeah.
Are you allowed to?
Four at once?
You're allowed alcohol in the stands.
Yeah.
You are.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
I think it's the 4 tin. They open the tins. They open the tins at the bar.
Yeah.
So you can't use them as missiles to launch at the opposition goalkeeper.
Yeah. I don't think the Blues allow alcohol in the stands yet. I think we're close. I think they're close to letting Birmingham City have alcohol in the stand. Yeah, sure. I don't know. I think we've not been known for our best behaviour. I mean, talking about crowds, I mean, we'll probably take quite a good following up to Stockport to watch when Blues play. But I was just thinking about stands. I mean, we have the Tilton, which is behind the goal. I think you're right. I always think there's one stand that's usually quite in the home out of the four.
Yes.
That is usually quite intense, and then the rest of them are kind of. But I think what's tricky about here is that when you have a big away following or decent away following, they can bounce off each other a little bit as well. They'll say something and then you'll say something. So that's obviously going to be tricky for a crowd here in Auckland. If there's not much, if there's not much coming back at you, then what do you throw forward? But
well, how many we got coming up from Wellington? There must be a few.
Away bay is sold out.
So
there you go.
I'm not entirely sure. Probably about
500-ish.
400.
Yeah, I was going to say
500 to 700 roughly, if I had to guess.
Yeah.
So
that's something.
Full away bay.
Yeah.
Make a noise.
But you get some football, you get some English games where the away following can only be a few hundred, but you can hear them.
Yeah.
And you'll feel it on the pitch, and the players will feel it and they'll hear it. So I think that'll be really, I can see why. Yeah, I can see why that's going to be such a. Obviously, it's a derby, but it's going to be a good atmosphere for that home.
For sure.
Birmingham, in your defence, always travel well. You're a well supported club as a. Down.
I mean, we're a bit weird when you said about the teams in the area. Like, we actually haven't got. I mean, obviously you got Aston which is inside Birmingham, but apart from the whole Birmingham area, Birmingham is really the only football team. I mean, I'm from Solihull, and we have a local team, but essentially Birmingham is just practically Birmingham City and Aston Villa. That's probably why the derby is so intense, because there's, I don't know how many people are in Birmingham. There's about 1.5 million or whatever, and it's pretty much split, down the middle. You've got half that are Villa fans and half of the Blues fans, and they just go at it. And also, we don't play each other very often.
Yeah,
we're crap, and begrudgingly they're very good, and we're crap. So when it comes around,
We had a couple of good seasons. I mean,
yeah, we had a few good seasons, and I think the neutral quite liked it when we are doing well, because it's quite a good game to put on the telly, because there's always something that happens. There's a snooker ball bounces off one of the other players' heads, or someone runs on the crowd and slaps somebody, or I don't know, something always seems to happen in the Blues Villa game. Yeah, usually.
So all these A-League games are in Sydney this weekend. Robbie, so what's sort of a way? What do you think? New Zealanders over there are going to go to the games, Port Auckland? Is that the vibe?
I hope so. I know that there's a promotional or thing of some sort where if you're a New Zealander with a New Zealand passport, you can apply and get free tickets, essentially. It is a fantastic concept, and thankfully the train strike over here is actually not happening anymore. So that means people will actually be able to travel to the games. I don't know. Like, it's more just if you're a football fan, come along. Like New Zealander, Spanish, whatever nationality. If you like football and you have a tie to the team, come along and watch, and you get to see basically every team play across the weekend.
12 games.
Different stadiums across the city, right? That's the
men are all playing at Allianz Stadium. The women are playing at they were meant to be playing at Leichhardt Oval, but the state of the pitch was appalling last weekend, so they've moved all the games to Cogra, Netstrata Jubilee Stadium, which is good.
Nice. Well, we're a bit. I mean, coming off the back of an international break, I always find a bit weird as a football fan. I mean, I'm so over the international break. Like, I mean, I know, but up in England and down here, I mean, the All Whites beat I think they beat Fiji. Who did they beat? They beat someone.
We play Fiji.
Vanuatu 8-1 and Samoa 8-0. And but what is good for the All Whites is they will pretty much be going to the World Cup. So they've only got to beat Fiji, and then there's a potential playoff against was it New Caledonia and Tahiti?
Or New Caledonia.
And we're with the World Cup. Hold on.
Don't jinx it. Just wait till we get there. Yeah.
Because
if they don't.
They'll have French lads, right? Tahiti and New Caledonia.
They have Tahiti has one player in a French academy, and New Caledonia has, I think, they're one player in like the Israeli league or something. So they've really sort of fallen off in terms of the players they used to produce.
It shouldn't happen, but I never like to tempt these things. Because
it's football.
Anything can happen.
Yeah, it's football. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Because New Zealand football fans are used to having to have this playoff every 4 years, pretty much against someone relatively decent
South
from
America.
South America, usually.
Like Mexico,
Paraguay or Bolivia, or
they get pumped. Yeah.
The 1 year they
actually only got pumped to get by Mexico. I think it was Peru. We lost 2-0 on aggregate, and Costa Rica we lost the game 1-0.
The problem with that Mexico game was that I watched that game. Probably that's why it resonates with me. But the gap was so big.
Yeah,
it was frightening how big the gap between the New Zealand football team and the Mexican team was. But I mean, Mexico are a bloody good team. It's not they're due, but it was. Oh man, it was
so I travelled across for the was it the second leg that was in Wellington? I can't remember. It must have been, because first leg 5-0, and ESPN Stats put out a tweet saying Mexico a 98.2% chance of progressing, and there was any number of Kiwis that replied 1.8% was still a chance. I
think one of the games Mexico had about 83% possession. I think in the first half or the second half. I mean, I didn't even think you could get. I thought it was actually quite hard to get 80-20 in a football game, because just because how much time the ball is in on the pitch, and you're competing with it.
It's the position isn't. Position stats aren't based off of how long a team has the ball, if I'm not mistaken. It's like there's some algorithm to do with the number of passes made too. It's because it's not
still not good.
Yeah, it's something weird. Yeah, still terrible.
Yeah.
The next World Cup, America, is it? I'm trying to think where it is.
America,
USA, Canada,
that's going to be funny,
Mexico.
isn't it? It's going to be. Oh, we've got an
Unless
8-hour
they don't-
flight to get
They
over
just
to
sort the
wherever.
turfs out, though.
Yeah.
Are they going to be
Yeah.
that bothered when we get there? So
Yeah, a lot of flying. Not a bad time zone for us. Slightly better than usual,
yes,
probably.
Yeah.
yes.
Mm.
Don't worry, we'll make it.
The one
work
after looks like a
over
dumpster
here.
fire,
We'll
though.
just drink at unsociable hours. It's what we like to do.
What you do? Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
so the international break. I mean, I tried to watch England's game. It was awful.
Yeah.
What,
Yeah, I just
beating
can't
Ireland
like
5-0?
No, the one before that, there was another,
I watched
another nations.
I watched the Greece game.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
terrible.
Yeah. It was. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
hard. International
was.
breaks.
It's just international breaks. It's just really average. It's just.
Also, shout out to San Marino for scoring 3 goals. I think it's for the first time in their history.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
They won their Nations League group too.
An iconic
Jeez
moment
Louise.
of British television was the Graham Taylor documentary
Yeah.
in 1993-4 that came out.
You guys are sitting here
And-
whining about a 3-0 win over Greece.
And San Marino went ahead against England.
He did.
And the
Yeah,
commentary was,
that's right.
San Marino have scored. So to score 3 is pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Actually,
Yeah.
there's I'm going to WhatsApp football group with some of my old schoolmates. I'll see if this works. I don't know if you'll be able to see that.
Yeah, I can see.
Oh yeah.
I thought that was quite good.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
San Marino are better than Man City. That's
Wow.
the big takeaway.
There it is.
Yeah, I
Stats.
mean, poor old
Stats.
City are having a torrid time.
Oh,
and Pep's just
yeah.
re-signed, hasn't he? So
Yeah.
Are they going to be done by all these charges? Are they going to get
Yeah,
relegated
that's a
and,
no,
titles handed
they'll
out
be-
to other clubs? Or
they'll be running around in circles for several years trying to pin anything on them, and City have got deeper pockets than them.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they'll just keep. Nothing will happen.
Just
In my
litigate
opinion,
after
I'd be
I've
very
got San
surprised.
Marino's last 138 games here.
hold on. What's
Oh
this?
wow!
Look at that. Blimey. That could be Birmingham City's. If you could replace that.
There's so
with the
much great
icon
stuff
there.
on the internet these days, huh?
That's
Yeah.
unbeaten in the last 2,
Yeah.
so they're informed.
Yeah. Longest I've
Yeah,
beaten
yeah,
history,
right.
by the look of it.
You're only good. You're only
I
as good as your
followed
last
the
game.
Icelandic cricket too as well.
So the international break, coming out the international break, and so there's always talk about players being either tired because there's a lot of travel and these 2 or 3 pointless games they have to play often, or they're kind of like rusty. And so Auckland FC actually coming up. We had a bye before the international break because there's an odd number of teams in the A League.
Mm.
And so how many days? Does anyone knows how many days it will be between games? Like 20 odd games for these Auckland lads, say. But then
What?
some of them would have played.
Do you count friendlies? Because they played a game against East Coast Bay, a friendly game.
I guess a friendly. I mean, friendly's game's like training, though, isn't it? Like a competitive
Training
game.
game,
really.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do we think? Do they think they're going to be rusty this weekend coming out the international break?
I don't know. I mean, it can go either way, kind of. I mean, what's happened with our team is that we've actually done quite well with it. We were doing quite well, and then we had quite a few games that came back to back to back, and we actually started to lose our way a little bit towards the end. But when the international break came, it gave him a couple of weeks to sort the ship out, steady the ship a little bit, and then we've come out and we've done quite well. So I don't know. I think it can be.
But we
I
had
think it
such
can be
momentum. We had such momentum going.
Yeah,
into
that's
that
the
break.
problem with Auckland. Yeah, I think of all the teams, Auckland's probably the worst time for Auckland because they were on a bit of a roll. Yeah, I think those 2 weeks are going to benefit other teams probably a bit more than I think maybe Auckland.
I think
I would say.
you say that. I think the team that, because Macarthur, I watched the I think it was Macarthur Western Sydney game, and like Macarthur are very open. So I feel like if we can get a roll, maybe nick an early goal or something, I feel like we can sort of regain that momentum. Like Macarthur will give up those chances, and so it's I think it sort of kind of depends who you come out of that break and play.
Yeah,
like so if we came out and had to play like Melbourne Victory or something, then like I'd agree with you, we'd probably lose a fair bit of steam and
I think I do agree, like having 2 weeks off is not ideal. I think the Newcastle Jets have a slightly stronger claim in that they went round 1, 2, bye, round 4, international break. So that is it easy to kind of go stop start, or at least have a chunk of games and then slightly longer break?
Yeah.
It's pretty shitty either way. Like there's no best case scenario out of this, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't mind. I don't think it's such a massive issue that it was 2 weeks, because they had the bye and they had the international break. I just think that just Auckland were just on a roll. When you're doing quite well and you're just going back to, when you're playing week to week to week, you just want to keep that going. I just think that's what sucks the most for Auckland, really. I think there was a bit of a run.
We were on a roll. We were on a roll, and we didn't want to stop.
For sure.
Miles, Stockport County players tired after the international break? Any of them playing?
No, we're all right.
You're all right.
You kept playing, I think.
Yeah, one of our sort of better players is actually a loanee from Villa, so we'll talk about him. But no, they're all right. They're all right. We've gone with the idea this year that we're going to sign a load of sort of 19, 20, 21-year-olds, typically players who've played at bigger clubs or in decent academies, on the basis that one or two of them will probably excel, and therefore that'll result in a decent transfer fee coming back to us. So we've got a bit of a mix of mainly young players. At the minute are gelling, with the exception of an old boy, Oliver Harwood, who used to play for Sheffield United for several years. But it's mainly young kids. Let's see if we can make millions that way.
Yeah, it's interesting because Auckland FC, these players have been thrown together basically in the last 4 or 5 months from the four corners of the globe. But thinking about it, teams like Stockport County would kind of be used to that. There'd be big churn and a lot of risks taken on players.
Yeah.
Same sort of deal, eh?
Well, even A-League, because according to Transfermarkt on Auckland FC, no one's on longer than a 2-year deal. So I feel like that's pretty standard across A-League with a few exceptions. So Central Coast Mariners, for example, are probably the best case study of this, and that they two seasons ago they won the league, sold half their players. Next season won the league, sold the other half of their players, and now they're 10th after winning back-to-back titles.
It's very much an A-League thing. The churn of players around the clubs it's quite high.
The domestic transfer system on top of that.
Correct, and there is no
say.
Yeah. But then it's starting to change now that with this kind of new era of A-League sides basically investing a lot more in youth, they're starting to see the dollar signs a little bit more. The club, the club higher ups, in that they're giving kids longer deals. They see, like, I think the Mariners goalkeeper Dylan Parrott-Cullen just signed, I think, a 5-year deal, and that's obviously with the intention. And he's a very good youth keeper. So if he's able to get a couple of solid seasons starting regularly under his belt, then that's going to mean the transfer fee within 3 to 4 years at most. So, good bit of business.
Yeah, we haven't really talked about. I wonder if Auckland will be that kind of club that'll sell players, because there's that one guy that played last year for Wellington. I only saw a few of Wellington's games towards the end, but he looked really good. And he went to a French, I think it was a French team.
Ben Old.
Ben Old's a really good player. You could see he stood out though between, when you watch the games, you could see that he had something about him that no one else did. And I think that was
very much like he started every game. He was essentially wasn't ever present alongside Scott Wooden. Him, Ben Old, Alex Paulson, all late teens, early 20s, played regularly. Got a taste of it a couple of seasons ago. Had a very good season last season, and then they were able to. The club was able to make very good financial gains out of them. Yeah. But again, it's going to take time for Auckland. Really, it's.
What's the youth setup like at Auckland? I mean, it's
doesn't exist
have
yet.
You got many kids sides underneath?
What happens is that because the Auckland FC are technically in the Australian competition, and you have a separate New Zealand competition, which is semi-pro, and that's split into Northern, Central, and Southern. And what happens is the top teams from those 3 divisions get pulled together at the end of the season. And Auckland Reserves and Wellington Phoenix Reserves have an automatic place in that finals. And whilst also having an automatic place in that Northern and Central League. So the kids will play in that competition next season, because the New Zealand calendar is January to December as opposed to June to May.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. The only reason why I was saying, I mean, we talked about City before, and I joked about obviously not being from Manchester, but the setup that they've got there for the youth teams at Manchester City is absolutely phenomenal. It really is. You know,
selling players that haven't played a game for 15 million and whatnot.
Well, yeah, you've got 3 or 4 sides that are drilled from 6 years of age, if not younger, about exactly what Pep Guardiola wants and his systems, and they've got it in their mind from such a young age, so they can slot these kids into the team. You know, there's players that you've not necessarily heard of that will suddenly play in a game, throw him in, but they know what they need to do because it's been drummed into them since they were practically since they could walk.
5 or 6 years of age, they're doing that. You reckon?
Yeah, that's it. They're like, this is our system. This is the way Man City play. This is the way Pep wants to play in the first team. So this is what you need to do. So it's just completely in their thinking.
And even the ones that don't end up graduating out of that City Academy, or at least, you know, they don't quite fit, like a Cole Palmer. I had no idea about him until he popped up at Chelsea, and he's an amazing player.
Yeah.
Chelsea.
Yeah, well, he was at County. He was at County over the other week, apparently. So when we beat Wrexham, so he's.
I saw that. Yeah.
He's from,
here we go.
He's a County.
Is he from your neck of the woods? Is he from?
He's from
Stockport area?
Yeah, he's from Wythenshawe, which I think was always. I don't know if it still is, but it's Europe's biggest council estate, as was. But it's just near Stockport, and so Cole's a County fan, and went along. Obviously, he was injured, couldn't play for the international team, so came to County instead. Good lad.
We all have our local celebrities. Because we got old. I think Jude Bellingham still turns up to the Blues.
Oh, does he? Right. Okay.
Yeah, because Spain has that break in the winter. So I think they have a winter break. So he often pops over and watches a few of the Blues games. But obviously we had him. You're saying about the young kids. I think we had Jude Bellingham from about 7 years old at the Blues. Yeah. So obviously they need. But the thing with us though that's different from Man City is that they have that whole structure to say this is what we want from you. Jude Bellingham was just he's a generational talent.
Very good nature.
He could have been born anywhere in the country. He'd have just gone straight to the academy.
His stats weren't as good as Dele Alli's, though. I have to add.
Yeah, I've heard
the first 3 or 4 seasons.
Yeah, Dele Alli was playing as a striker, basically.
Bellingham plays. No, Kane was the striker, and Ali was off him, just like Bellingham plays in the team. Ali was a great player. Great player.
Yeah. What I'd be interested to know in terms of like the academy, especially with Auckland FC, is how that kind of, because I've seen them. Correct me if I'm wrong. They've signed these deals with the local clubs, and how that kind of
12 or
14 clubs all up.
14, and even similarly, Miles, how that works. If I'd assume if there's a talented Stockport youngster, they would get snapped up by one of the bigger Manchester clubs, right? So how does that kind of?
Yeah, that's right.
How does does a kid get a real chance to kind of come through the Stockport grades, or are they just going to be picked off by the bigger clubs? And then I guess the flip question of that is how will that work with Auckland and the likes of an East Coast Bays? If there's a great kid coming from there, will he get to play for them, or is he going to get snapped up into the Auckland system? I'm still a bit curious in how that kind of works.
Yeah, I mean, from Stockport's perspective, they know they've got the likes of City and they're not too far away. We have put a lot into the youth system, particularly looking to support the kids, as a lot of the clubs do now, in terms of what else can we do, and actually looking into the education side to make sure it's linked into degrees or some sort of further learning, and we try and do that as a sell, really, because there's maybe 10 or 20 lads that we've got going through as opposed to the hundreds that are going through City system.
The same thing as the old US college system.
And you've got you've got a bit more of a direct chance of playing at Stockport. Let's be honest.
Well, they'll tell the mum and dad, won't they? They'll say, look, your
Yeah.
boy, keep him here. You know, he's going to actually get game time and be able to develop. Whereas might get lost over the road.
Yeah, and in the long run, you know, what's not to say that they come and they're a success in League One, and then they go through the pyramid that way. But at least they've had the experience of playing first team football, which some kids, some great playing kids, might never have the opportunity at City. And therefore, it's down to the likes of Stockport to try and pick them as they're falling back through. So.
And I guess that is part of the FIFA contracting thing now, that there's a percentage goes to the youth, the players' youth club, the original youth club. So I guess there's some kind of kickback there.
Got a bit under $1 million, I think it was, for the Chris Wood transfers to Nottingham and Newcastle.
Chris Wood. Well, there we go. I mean, talking of local celebrities, well, how's Chris Wood going down in England? Because he's just won the Premier Player of the Month now.
Absolutely, he's
doing that England call up.
He's doing brilliantly. I've not quite signed him into my fantasy football team because I keep thinking, is he too old? You know, do I need to get one of these younger players? But he's having a brilliant time. So maybe I'm wrong. Yeah, he's doing very well.
I mean, he was a good case, I guess. Like he had to go overseas at quite an early age. I think he was over there in West Brom when he was late teens.
Birmingham City.
Did he go to Birmingham as well?
Yeah, he played for Blues.
He scored a goal in Europe.
He scored our goals. Yeah, when we won the League Cup and we got relegated. But he was with us. I think we signed him. Yeah, because we won the League Cup, that gave us a route into Europe. So we're playing in the Championship. But we're also playing in the whatever it was, the Europa Cup.
League.
He scored. I think he scored most of our goals when we were playing in Europe. Yeah.
Is his wife a professional footballer? Have I made that up? Isn't she?
She's a solicitor, I think.
Oh right.
I think you made it up, Miles.
I thought he was going to say something like a. I thought she was going to be at least something.
Sorry about that.
I thought she was going to be at least like a volleyball player or a netball player or something. Yeah. I thought she was going to be something
a bit more exciting.
Yeah. That's what
I mean, like for example, Howard Bellis, the New England sensation and latest goal scorer. His dad's was the mascot at Stockport for several years. He was Vernon Bear. So you know
that as well.
Yeah.
I mean, forget about the fact he's getting married to Roy Keane's daughter. I mean,
Roy Keane's daughter. That's right.
His dad was Vernon Bear. Let's get the priorities right, mate.
No.
I love when they meet.
Yeah.
At the wedding.
Willie comes dressed as Vernon Bear on
the
if on the first time.
When someone says, I recognise you, but it'll be Roy Keane saying it to him, I say, I recognise you, but I don't recognise you without your outfit on. Yeah, I don't know who I don't know who you are, mate. I was the guy. I was the mascot. Stockport County. Yeah, I must be so entrenched in League One that I know all these stories. I knew about the mascot. I know about you online.
What if you go down from League One? Can you even watch it on the TV? I mean, where does the TV stop filming it? Like,
I think you can watch a lot of League One players games.
You can get the National League. You can get a pass for that on the website through
the National League here.
National League, various sorts of. National League has been shown on the telly previously. Various other.
But for the overseas viewers, you can get like a pass online.
Is that the old Vauxhall Conference you're talking
Correct,
about?
mate.
Yeah, Vauxhall Conference.
Yeah, let's talk about it. I was forgetting you've moved away a while ago. Yeah,
it's like
and we've got something called the Premier League now as well, mate.
No, that was around.
Right.
So I remember watching the Premier League.
So we're in the old Division 3 at the moment, aren't we?
Yeah.
The old Division 3.
Yeah.
Miles and I went to watch one Spurs game together. Do you remember? We went to watch Wigan away.
Yeah.
And Fix, your mate, drove us up and we parked on the edge of a council estate, which was a big mistake. And we came back and all the windows had been blown out, and all the people that had blown the windows out and took this car stereo were stood on the lawn, weren't they? Like about 7 or 8.
Yeah, they were. Yeah.
And just watching us come back to the car.
Yeah, that was that. Did Spurs win? I think they won, didn't they?
Do you know what? I don't even remember the game. I just remember that.
There's too much going on. Way too much going on. Way too much.
Right. And I can't remember if any of us wanted to confront them. I don't think any of us did. We were like,
no, I don't think so. I think
you
we
know,
just got in the
even
car
fix it.
and we're a bit cold on the drive back into Manchester from memory.
Yeah, we're a bit upset. That's right.
Did you ever
Slightly
have
windy.
Did you ever have the pleasure of coming to Birmingham, Miles?
I've been to Birmingham City. Yeah.
Oh, good on you. Okay. Yeah.
Did you encounter any of Matt's bricks?
Yeah, I went to get a
Through the
pint.
window.
Yeah, it was a bit
Need to confirm
hostile. I went to get a pint in a. It was one of these home fans only pubs that you get somewhere near the ground, and I wandered in and I thought, I'm not arsed, I'll go in. Anyway, I went in and I went into the. I thought I'll go for a quick pee, and there was these big sort of white urinals, and there was a load of blood smeared across all these urinals, and I was like, Jesus Christ, this is tough in here. So
and you went, hang on, I'm in the women's toilets as well. I'm in the wrong one.
Yeah, well, exactly.
You should see the blokes.
Right, that was just the women. So I went back to my mate Millie, and I said, mate, I have a feeling we've made a mistake coming into this home fans only.
I think you made a mistake just coming here in general.
Well, yeah, exactly. So I was like, right, let's just drink a pint quickly, and I'll talk to you every now and again in a bit of a Birmingham accent.
This is the thing, the accents, eh?
So
I would laugh.
I can probably do you. I was like, Millie, you haven't got a chance of doing a Brummie accent, but I might get there roughly. So I was like, every now and again, I'll chip in with a bit of Brummie. And we'll drink quick. And
I like it.
So we
it.
did, but
Right, yeah.
we survived to tell the tale.
Yeah.
Lovely stuff.
I went to Stockport County. My story is that in the away end, actually, it's funny. Our stories seem to revolve around toilets. So you go to the toilet at Stockport County, and you walk in, and it was just practically like two slabs of concrete, one against the wall, and then one against the floor that you stood on. And the gap it created was practically where your wee went, and it just kind of sat in this kind of trough, and it must have been kind of.
Oh,
it must have been
English
going
football grounds are disgusting.
It was going somewhere, but it was on such a flat surface that it wasn't pitched, so it wasn't making its way down to any kind of particular
pooling there
area. Yeah, but we're all joking. It was like, hang on, you can't go because it's clearly at the top. I've been waiting here. I don't want all this on my shoes, so I'll go. Let it go down a bit, and then you go, and then you go, and then you can go. If we all went at the same time, it would all just come over the top and all onto your shoes. Yeah, it's like what is going on? Well,
I remember a similar scenario at Peterborough away, but that was the middle of winter, so it was just steamy. It was like going into a horrible steam room.
London Road.
Yeah. Because you were there. I think I stayed at yours, mate. And you came along.
Yeah. Did I come and watch the game? Maybe I did.
I'm not sure if you did.
Maybe
or
I've seen Stockport twice in my life.
Maybe you definitely once at Plymouth when we ended up in Torquay.
That's right. Sleeping in the back of a car.
Sleep in the back of a car, which was a fun night. And then you nearly started. We had a bit of a trouble at the kebab place, didn't we?
Trouble at the kebab shop.
That's a good story. That's another one. That's a good one for another day.
It was
mistaken identity. Mistaken identity.
Your fault. It was a case of mistaken identity.
It was.
And this chap was particularly angry that he thought you'd maybe been with his girlfriend, and in fact it was just someone who looked like you.
He was angry, That's right.
And you got Jackie Chan, didn't you, or Bruce Lee?
No, that's different event.
That another one? Oh,
it's a different story.
I've escaped from a number of tight squeezes in my time.
Yeah.
Wow.
The Bruce Lee, the Bristol City kebab shop. Yeah,
but Miles and I met in New Zealand. This is kind of like one of the other reasons I've had him back on. We actually met in 2002. Neither of us had been here before, and we both turned up as backpackers and had a big 3 or 4 weeks on the Kiwi Experience bus. And it kind of but the football connection was always there because we had another guy and he was a Southampton fan.
Yeah.
And we just had nicknames. He was Southampton, you were Stockport, and I was.
We can't say, can we? What time is it over there?
What did it start with?
I think it's past the watershed.
All right.
I think we can say, can't we?
What does it rhyme with?
I was Winston.
You were Winston,
wasn't I? But
Yeah.
after Dale Winton, wasn't it?
Dale
It was
Winton, yeah.
segue on words. He was a very high energy performer back in the
And then we had Haystacks. We had Haystacks, who was
Giant Haystacks,
who we think was the tallest man in the world, possibly, because
tallest man in the world.
Yeah,
and lucky he was there. He was there though when there was the mistaken identity in talking.
He was,
so,
and 6'7" and a big
talk
lad.
To me. Talk to this guy.
Yeah,
not me. Usually, yeah.
But yeah, look, it's but yeah, I mean, as well as having a great time, I remember we were like, football was always right there, right? It was kind of
absolutely.
I remember you bowling around in an England shirt with a skinhead.
Yes,
that was you at the time.
Yeah, and a Stockport County shirt. I did the skydive. No, not skydive. The bungee jump in the Nevis bungee jump in my county shirt. Yeah, and then I subsequently won a prize for a signed county shirt with send us a picture anywhere in the world in your county shirt, and I beat a load of 5-year-old kids that were on holiday in Tenerife, and I was like, well, I'm doing a bungee jump in New Zealand, so I win.
Exactly. Yeah, it's always 5-year-old. It's always 5-year-olds in Lanzarote. It's always
exactly.
They must have been so bored. They must have been flicking through him and gone, 6-year-old in Gran Canaria, 8-year-old in Malabar.
That's a fully grown man in New Zealand.
It's a fully grown man with a skinhead. Should we bet this? No, let's give it to him. No, get it out there.
Yeah. Actually won it. But
that's great.
Yeah, good
that's
fun.
Great.
Have we spoken about overhead kicks anyway yet, Dale?
Overhead kicks. Well, there was an incredible goal. Like watching the highlights, Macarthur. Gosh, what was it? What's his name? His name escapes me.
Ariath
Piol, I believe it was.
Piol.
Yes.
It was a beautiful overhead kick. It was stunning. I had to rewatch it over and over again. And I have actually scored an overhead kick goal. You guys won't
don't believe it. I've seen
you. I don't believe that either.
I was a good player in my day. I was 15 years old, and I remember
why did you play for Spurs then?
No, it was down in the sunken it was down in what was known as the Sunken Gardens in Margate. And
so your backyard.
Jumpers for goalposts, 6v6 down on the front there. Wind coming in off the North Sea down there, and leapt in the air, and just exactly like this guy did for Macarthur, just hit it sweetly, went through the goalposts. Anyone else ever scored one of those?
No, my legs have never been that high ever.
No, I can't.
You're a goalkeeper too, aren't you, Robbie?
Goalie, yeah, Robbie.
I'm sure if you're talking about every day, if you managed to pull that off as a goalie.
I was at the Euros for Jude's goal. That was he came in this conversation. That was 93 minutes of absolute dross, and then Bellingham scored his overhead kick, and it was wild celebrations. It was that was good. That was a good game.
It was.
Well, I say a good game. A good end.
Good end. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Big moments. It's nice when the big moments have a nice goal as well, eh?
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever scored an overhead goal. Yeah. I don't think I can say that.
No.
Yeah.
Long time ago. But all right. Well,
the good yarn about that. There is a story behind the Piol. There's actually two things about it. The bicycle was actually on the wrong leg too. If you think about it. It was coming the way he was facing was with his back to goal. He actually hit it with the leg nearest to where the cross was, rather than the opposite leg.
Which is unusual.
So unusual, but still like great connection, great goal.
Yeah,
harder, absolutely, because the judgment's different. But the kicker to the story is that earlier that day, so he's on a group chat with a couple of other ex-A League professional young kids like Nesta Irankunda over at Bayern Munich, one of the Touré brothers who used to play at Adelaide, who's now over in France. He's on a group chat with them, and they got this thing where, like, before a game, they'll kind of challenge each other to say, "What are you going to do today? What are you going to do in your next game?" And someone said to him, "You're going to score a bicycle kick, aren't you?" And he goes, "Yeah." And then he did.
And he did.
And he did.
It's like manifesting it, isn't it?
Manifesting it. Yeah.
So we're playing Macarthur this weekend. A little bit of a different game. So Auckland have only played New Zealand's soil so far. Two games at home in Auckland, one away in Welly. And what do we? Quick
predictions.
Round robin predictions for Macarthur Bulls
Miles.
away. Miles.
Uh,
Macarthur falls
Gotta
away.
be.
Auckland
Gotta be
wins.
Miles.
Auckland wins 3-0.
3-0.
Hey!
Like it.
Blimey.
Don't
I
ask me
like
to
it,
name
yeah.
the goal scorers.
Number 9 at number 17.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Funnily enough,
Yeah,
there is no 9 or 17, I think, in their
Well,
squad.
there you go. Yeah.
yeah.
Blair knows it all. Those are the numbers.
Right, 3-0 away.
Anyone else?
Take that.
I'll get in there. I'll go 1-1.
1-1 again.
Yeah, it's got to come
The
right.
match
eventually.
special.
Yeah,
I'm
then
going to
1-1.
go.
I'm going to say.
4-2.
I'll say Sakai for both.
And goal. You should put some money on that because it's so obscure that like you'd get a lot of money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, 1-1,
interesting.
3-0 for Miles. Robbie?
Oh, this is really hard to pick. Macarthur have a very well balanced squad, very good on attack. They currently have statistically the best player in the competition in Marin Jakalic.
Who's very
Australia
wasteful,
Cup winners
I'll add.
this season. It's heads saying draw.
Yeah.
Score
0-0.
draw. There's goals in both. I think 2-2. But heart, obviously, I want Auckland to win and claim that piece of history as the only ever A-League side to win their first 4 games in existence.
What about that?
Ooh.
First 4.
Yeah, so I'll be going 4-1 or 3-1 to Auckland because, like, I watched the Macarthur Western Sydney game and Macarthur's finishing was so bad. Jakalic could have had like 4 goals that game. Like, he missed like, and I just don't think they're going to get that quality of chance against us. So, you know, if they're anything like they were against Western Sydney, I think we'll beat them pretty comfortably.
All right.
So, yeah, 3-1.
I want a 7-goal thriller. 4-3 Auckland. I want to see one of these A-League goal fests, you know.
The other angle for me to come at is because I'm producing the TV coverage for this, so I'd be quite happy with a comprehensive win one way or the other. I don't like thrillers because it just means you throw the rundown out.
It's
It's
complicated if you're working on the game. Huh?
I'd happily take 1 goal in each half. Done. That's it.
Lovely.
Yeah, easy.
Very good.
Great stuff. All right. Well, we're gonna wrap it up. Thanks for everyone for coming again. It's been a joy to talk football.
Okay.
Miles, mate, thank you very much. Are you still there? You're frozen. Oh no, I thought he was looking down at some notes intently, but he's
frozen. He's gone.
He's tuned out.
Hey, look, we got a live. This is our first live linker out of Australasia on the show, so he's done well. If you listened, Miles, thank you very much for coming. And we'll be back to do it again next week to pick apart the Macarthur game, and then the week after we've got another home game. So I'm excited to get back down to Mount Smart Stadium, and enjoy your weekend, everybody out there, and watch the football and up the port.
Up the port.
Yes.
Yeah.